Bruce adjusted the camera lens with a grin, the Nahani Valley unfolding in front of him like some untouched world lost to time. Green mountains rolled endlessly beneath a gray-blue sky, the river carved through stone like a silver blade. Mist curled along the tree line far below them, swirling in slow motion. "Nahani, finally," he said, lifting the camera to his shoulder. Steve turned around, still lugging a drone case and a heavy microphone rig. "Feels like we're on the edge of a different planet." They were 4 days into their hike, deep into the valley now, far past where most tourists dared to tread. Their YouTube channel, Unearthed, Cryptid Truths, and Dark Legends, had built a loyal audience over the past 2 years. They filmed haunted mines, cursed lakes, Wendigo sightings, anything cryptid or paranormal. But this one felt different. Bruce set the camera down and pulled out his phone, scrolling through their planning notes and local folklore they had collected. "You see this post?" he said, holding it up. Guy claimed he saw a fur-covered figure walking upright at dusk. 8 feet tall, yellow eyes, no sound when it moved. Steve snorted. That could be anything. Moose, bear, some guy in a ghillie suit. Bruce lowered the phone. "Yeah, maybe. But when you read about the rest of this place, it gets weirder." The Nahani Valley was soaked in legend. The Dene people had their own stories about evil spirits and cursed lands. White explorers brought tales of lost gold mines, vanishing prospectors, and most famously, headless corpses. The MacLeod brothers found decapitated in the early 1900s. Others had gone missing. Some were discovered years later with their skulls removed. Some were never found at all. Even the park rangers avoid parts of it, Steve said, lowering his voice. Too much history, too much energy. Bruce smirked, which is exactly why we're here. That night, they camped by a glacier-fed stream. The valley was quiet, wind stirring the spruce trees, distant wolves howling far up the cliffs. The fire crackled between them as they went through the day's footage. "Solid intro," Steve said, watching the drone fly over. "Voice over it tomorrow. Then maybe hit the southern gorge and talk about the legends. We'll do a night hike too, play up the mystery." Bruce nodded. "Let's keep this raw. Show the forest as it is. If something happens, let it happen." They killed the lights and climbed into their tents. Around 2 a.m., Steve was woken up. A sound drifted across the clearing. Not an animal call, not wind, breathing. It was slow and deep, like lungs too big for any normal creature. It came from the tree line, followed by a soft crunch, as if something was shifting its weight on soft soil. Steve sat up, listening hard. It went quiet again. Just the stream, just the wind. He stayed frozen in his sleeping bag for an hour, staring at the tent ceiling until he finally drifted off again. By morning, the air felt heavier. Bruce was already up, boiling water for coffee and charging gear with the solar pack. Steve stepped out, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "You were up late," Bruce said. Steve hesitated. "I think something was outside last night." Bruce looked up. Big, breathing real slow. "I don't know, it was just weird." Bruce raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. They had heard strange things in the woods before. The forest had its own language. Still, he filed it away in his mind. The day passed without incident. They found old tree carvings, what looked like native symbols cut deep into a pine near the cliff. Steve set up a short segment explaining the symbols while Bruce panned the area with the drone. At sunset, the valley turned gold again, but the air was colder now. Birds were quieter. Insects almost absent. They spent the evening editing and responding to viewer comments. The last video had gone semi-viral. Their subscriber count was climbing fast. People loved cryptid content, especially when it felt real, Steve started uploading shots of the forest, with eerie music layered underneath. He slowed down some clips to make the mist look alive, but as he paused on one frame, something caught his eye. "Wait," he muttered. Bruce leaned over. "Right there," Steve pointed. Between two trees, near the background of a walking shot Bruce had taken earlier, a shape stood. Tall, unmoving. It looked almost human, but not quite. Too bulky, no details, just a silhouette. Bruce leaned in. Could be a tree trunk. "Yeah," Steve said, dragging the clip frame by frame, except it's not there in the frame before. Or the one after. Bruce said nothing. They replayed it 3 more times. 1 second there, the next gone. That night, the forest pressed in closer. The fire didn't seem to throw light as far. Shadows moved more than they should have. The temperature dropped fast, their breath visible in the beams of their flashlights. Bruce checked the batteries. Why is everything draining so fast? Steve looked up. Solar banks fine, just the cameras. That night, they tried to sleep early, but both tossed in their tents for hours. At some point near dawn, Bruce heard it. Breathing again, only this time, it was closer, right outside the tent. Then a low, guttural sniffing. His hand froze above the flashlight. He didn't dare turn it on. The sound circled the tent once, then silence. Not even birds when the sun came up. Steve hadn't spoken a word all morning. He sat by the fire, poking at the embers with a stick, his coffee untouched. Bruce stood at the edge of camp, eyes scanning the tree line, camera slung around his neck. "You heard it too, right?" Steve finally said. Bruce nodded. Something circled the tent, breathing, sniffing. And the batteries? Still draining. Bruce flipped open the solar charger, fully juiced. But their backup cam was already dead, and the main camera was blinking red after just 20 minutes of use. "This place is messing with our gear," he said. Steve stood up and rubbed his arms. The sky was clear, sun hanging low, but it still felt off. They packed quickly and moved deeper along the ridgeline trail. Neither of them said much. The camera stayed on, and Bruce kept it pointed forward, catching the tall pines, the fog slipping across the forest floor like slow smoke. They filmed B-roll, voiceovers, and tried to pretend things were normal, but the silence between words kept stretching longer. Later that day, they reached an old riverbed, nearly dry, with smooth rocks stacked high along both sides. Steve found something strange near the bank. He waved Bruce over. "Check this out." In the mud, half frozen and barely visible, were prints, huge ones. Wider than a bear's, but different. Toes were visible, long and clawed, and they were in pairs. One set, walking upright, another set beside it, like the same creature sometimes dropped down onto all fours. Bruce crouched low, filming. "These are fresh," he whispered. "Too fresh," Steve said. "Whatever made these walked through here this morning." They followed the prints for about 20 feet before they vanished into the rocks, just gone. No drag marks, no disturbance, like it had lifted off the ground. Steve lowered the camera slowly. I hate how often that happens in these stories. Prints that just stop. Bruce nodded. The DOGMAN stories, that's what people always say. Tracks for a bit, then nothing. That night, they set up camp in a rocky hollow, closer to the cliffs. They surrounded the fire with their gear, checked all the batteries twice, and decided to do a live stream. Their audience had been begging for it, and the strange things piling up gave them more than enough reason to go live. Bruce booted up the stream. Signal was shaky but holding. "What's up, everyone?" he said into the lens, forcing a smile. "We are deep in Nahani Valley right now, and things have gotten weird." Steve stepped into frame, holding up a small whiteboard with the date and coordinates written on it. "We've seen and heard stuff the past 2 nights. Strange footprints, heavy breathing near the tents, even possible visual of something large moving between the trees. Bruce turned the camera toward the forest behind them. The light caught a wall of fog beginning to drift in, snaking low through the branches. "Stay with us," Steve said. "We'll be streaming the whole night." They kept the fire low and focused on the trees. Comments poured in live. "Heard about this place. What's that sound? Tell Steve to turn around. Bro, there's something in the back left corner of the frame." Bruce squinted at the monitor. In the background, just past a cluster of rocks, a shape moved. He flipped the lens and zoomed. "Something's back there," he muttered. Steve took the flashlight and shined it across the rocks. The beam barely touched the distance before it flickered, batteries dying again. "Guys, we aren't faking this," Bruce said, turning back to the stream. "We prepped everything. We're running full charges. The gear is dying faster than it ever has before." Then came a whisper. Both men froze. It wasn't a voice, not exactly. More like wind passing through something hollow, but it carried a rhythm, a pattern. Like language without words. "Did you hear that?" Steve asked. Bruce nodded slowly. Steve swung the camera toward the sound. The viewers saw it at the same time they did. A figure standing near the edge of the trees. It looked human, broad shoulders, long hair, dressed in what seemed like furs and leather. Beads glinted faintly across the chest. Native, maybe, but the face was wrong. Too faded, like it wasn't fully there. Light passed through it, in places. The figure lifted one hand, then vanished, just blinked out of existence. The chat exploded. "What the hell? I saw that. Ghost, Skinwalker? Did you just film a spirit?" Bruce's hands were shaking now. He panned back and forth, scanning the tree line. "I think that was a ghost," he said quietly. "Some kind of apparition. Or a warning," Steve added. The wind kicked up. The fire bent low. The sound returned, but this time louder. Breathing, all around them, in and out, heavy and slow. Steve flipped on the infrared camera and aimed it at the woods. Through the grainy green filter, multiple shapes appeared. At least 3, pacing, circling. They moved with an eerie rhythm, on 2 legs at first, then dropped down to all 4s without sound. "They're watching us," Bruce whispered. The comments kept pouring in. "Don't stay there. Guys, I'm serious. Get out." There's one behind Steve. Suddenly, from just beyond the firelight, something massive darted through the trees. Camera caught a blurred outline, hunched and fast, but the form was unmistakable. Fur, long arms, thick torso, not anything natural. Bruce's voice cracked. "We're not alone out here." Steve didn't speak. He was staring at the monitor, eyes wide. The infrared showed another figure, closer now, standing upright, motionless. The feed lagged for a moment, the screen glitching slightly. Steve stepped back, instinctively. Then, a howl shattered the silence. Not wolf, not coyote, something else. Bruce turned the camera toward the trees again. The fire flickered, the breathing got closer. Then, something stepped into the edge of the light. Steve's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's here." At the edge of the firelight, something stood just within view, massive and upright. The fur along its shoulders looked soaked, darker than the rest, like it had been crawling through mud. Yellow eyes reflected the fire, no blinking, just staring. The camera picked it up in full. The chat blew up instantly. "What is that? Oh my God." Bruce didn't move. The camera trembled in his hands. He kept it directed towards the figure. It took one step forward. Its snout came into focus, fangs glinting beneath a curled lip. It looked like a wolf standing on 2 legs, but there was something human in the way it moved. A cruel intelligence in the way it paused, like it wanted them to run. Steve backed away, slow. Another shape moved behind it, then another, low to the ground. Four-legged, still massive. "Bruce," Steve said, shaking. "We need to go." Bruce didn't answer. His voice was gone. The creature stepped forward again, one clawed foot crunching over dry pine needles. Steve turned and ran. The camera jerked with the movement. The stream held, viewers now getting a dizzy, frantic shot of trees whipping past as Steve sprinted through the dark. "Bruce!" he shouted over his shoulder. A scream answered him from behind. Not human. Then another scream. That one was human. "Bruce!" Steve gasped, stumbling as he ran. Branches snapped against his arms and face. The light from the camera swung wildly, then a shape darted past him on the right. He screamed and pushed harder. Somehow the signal held. Thousands were still watching. Some were recording. The chat moved so fast, it blurred. Steve's foot caught a root. He tumbled forward and hit the ground hard. The camera bounced and landed on its side. The shot now framed a wide, moonlit clearing. Bones, dozens of them. Human skeletons piled together, some bleached and brittle. Steve sat up slowly. What the hell? The viewers saw it too. His microphone picked up the panic in his breath. He panned the camera across the ground. No heads, just rows of broken bodies. "This is the Headless Valley," he whispered. "This is what they were talking about." Behind him, a low growl started. He turned. Something was moving in the trees. He grabbed the camera, stood, and took one step back. Then it hit him. The dogman tackled Steve from the side, a blur of claws and teeth. He screamed as they tumbled into the dirt. His camera flew from his hands, landing hard, but it kept rolling. It showed Steve struggling on the ground, yelling, kicking. The firelight from his drop torch flickered, just enough to illuminate the forest floor. A pair of hairy, clawed legs stepped into view. The creature stood over him. Viewers saw only the lower half, but it was enough. Thick muscles, matted fur, hands dragging the earth beside its feet. Steve screamed again, high-pitched and raw. It grabbed his legs and dragged him backwards into the trees. His nails scraped the ground. His body disappeared. The scream faded into choking gasps, then silence. For several seconds, nothing moved. The camera sat still, catching only trees and bones. Then, from the side of the frame, something rolled into view. A head, Steve's. His mouth hung open, his eyes wide. It rolled once, hit a tree root, and came to a stop. Then the feed cut, the screen went black. The video stayed live for 2 more minutes, displaying a frozen loading icon. Viewers thought it might reconnect. It didn't. Within the hour, clips of the stream hit every corner of the internet. People called it fake, viral marketing, a hoax. But the regulars, the longtime fans, they knew better. Authorities launched a search, but no bodies were found. No cameras, no gear, not even the fire pit. Just cold wind and empty forest. A year later, the video reappeared. Not the full thing, just a 30-second clip. It showed the final seconds, Steve's scream, the camera tumbling, then the clearing. Bones everywhere. And in the last 2 seconds, just before the video cut out, something new stepped into frame. A shadow. Massive, upright, leaning toward the lens. Then the screen went black. And unearthed, cryptid truths and dark legends was never heard from again. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to Descent into the Unknown for more horror content. If you have any real cryptid encounters, or you're a horror writer wanting to share your stories, Please feel free to email me in the description anytime.